DEF subcommittee meeting. I guess we'll do some introductions. Do we need to do those?
Yeah.
I'm Ron. Okay. I'm Ronell Ellis and I'm committee chair and I'm glad to be here. So good afternoon to you guys. Vice, feel free to introduce yourself as needed.
Want us to go? I'm Kiki Ferris, the Assistant Chief Probation Officer here in the proxy for our chief, the Eamon Kraus. I'm directly responsible for all of our programs and services, all of adult and juvenile supervision, as well as our juvenile hall.
Thank you.
Marcus Walton, Director of Communications for the County Office of Education, proxy for Superintendent of Schools, Lynn Mackey.
Thank you, Marcus.
Ronell, did you want to do introductions for staff and community members?
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Garyana Youngblood, and I'm with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Thank you.
Hi all, Patrice Guillory here, also from the Office of Reentry and Justice. I would normally be there in the room with you all, but I'm sparing you right now as I've been recovering from my own little minor illness. So sorry I'm not there with you, but I'm with you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Elizondo, Program Coordinator with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. Kendra Carr, one of the co-directors of the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice. Good to see you all.
Jill Ray with the Office of Supervisor Candace Anderson.
Hi, my name is Chantel Owens. I'm with Genesis Church.
Thank you. All right, so with that, I guess we'll move to public comment. Is that correct?
Are there any announcements from the board? And then you can ask for announcements from the public.
Does anyone on the board have any announcements at this time?
I don't.
Okay. No, the board doesn't have any announcements. So we can move to any public comment this time. Since we don't have any public comment. So do we need to approve actions from our previous meeting on May 9?
Yes, I can pull up the record of action now.
Okay. Thank you. To make a motion to approve those actions?
May I make just a quick request for a correction?
Yeah.
Under my title, can we change Director of Communion to Director of Communications? While my asking my humans,
Yeah, I second that. I would agree. I don't know if I want his communion.
My apologies, Marcus. We'll make that correction.
All right, thank you.
I've seen worse.
It is working, but
Hey,
Right.
all right.
might be my son.
Yep. Okay, so other than that, do we see anything else we need to adjust or alter on there?
I do not. I can make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion. I have a second. I'll take a vote. Ronell,
All in favor of approving the actions previous meeting? Yes.
We doing roll
Kiki?
call, we doing?
Oh,
I
yes.
was, and then Marcus.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. So, at this time, we'll discuss the work plan. That the target to go ahead and start talking
Yeah,
about that again and pick it up.
If I can, if it's okay with you, Renell, I can give a little bit of context and hopefully refresh some of our memories of where we last left off. I know it's been quite a while since this committee has had a chance to meet, so I'm happy to do that and hopefully set the stage for your conversations of the next few items.
Have my blessings.
All right, well, thank you, since we're having communion today.
Stand with that theme.
Yes, keep on with the theme. Excuse me. So, I believe where we last, when we all last met, there was conversation around how for this committee to begin to identify, its own priorities, based on the previous, CEEP work plan and also the identified objectives of the full R job, work plan that was also discussed several months back. We also were intending to create space in this meeting to talk about whatever items that you all as a body would like to see be brought forth for a joint meeting between our job and the equity committee. So those kind of two items sort of go hand in hand as you review both work plans that are made available here as well. And then lastly, the quarterly report, which I actually don't think, I think the one that's attached here is not the latest one. If I'm not mistaken, can't remember if I don't think we switched it out. Let me just double check. Oh, no, it is the latest. Sorry. Okay, it is the latest. So, you know, I believe you all wanted to have an opportunity to discuss some of those respective data reporting that's done through the sheriff's office and just generally speaking across all the related justice agencies that would be helpful in moving some of that work forward, or at least would be areas of interest that this body could see the community wanting to be engaged in. So those are sort of the sentiments of what was discussed last time, or what you were looking forward to potentially discuss at today's meeting.
Does anybody have anything specific pertaining to that they want to start up with? Based on our previous meeting to resume. You got any concerns, Marcus?
Well, if I could, I understand we have our work plan, but maybe it's a good idea for us to review our jobs work plan before we get into subcommittees work plan. So we can see where the direction of the main body and their priorities. And then we can move on to the work we're supposed to be doing at their direction.
Sure, and this work plan, let's see, this may have been at the beginning of the year or midway, where the body reviewed the work plan and started to highlight or at least identify the respective objectives that they like to focus on for this year. And the ones that sort of rose to the top or were revisiting the procedural justice and implicit bias training to maybe look at something more specific to a racial bias training. That would have been objective 1, listed here at the top. And
Patrice, can I ask a question?
sure.
Because I was wondering too, and looking at the work plan, is this the like, how far back does this work plan go? And I'm wondering if the colors mean anything in particular in the highlights?
Sorry, yeah. So this is the original work plan. It has not changed since it was first created for our job, which may have been back in 2019, I believe. And so the colors represent those that were highlighted in green were items that were technically sort of considered completed, but might be items that the body would want to either revisit or have an update. Those that are highlighted in yellow are essentially sort of like the low hanging fruit, the work that many of the committees have already been working on and that still require a little bit more support to see that come to fruition. And the blue are items that required a little bit more of a heavy lift. Not necessarily a starting point has been determined as of yet for some of these items, and that some of the yellow highlighted objectives may need to be done and completed in order to sort of jumpstart some of these blue ones. So that was really the kind of qualifiers there for the highlighted items.
And did you say that these highlights occurred earlier this year?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Mhm. So, as I mentioned, objective one, though it was completed, there was still conversation about wanting to revisit that and prioritizing that item for this year. Objective three was another objective that our job body wanted to prioritize, given a lot of the work that's being discussed in the diversion subcommittee, the restorative justice work that our office is working toward as well. And and with the Office of Ed also having a lot of involvement in this space as well. So that was an objective that was prioritized. Let's see. Objective 7, to establish a community capacity fund. Obviously, that had been ongoing discussion for this subcommittee specifically, and so the body wants to continue to prioritize that. Objective 8, encourage the Superior Court to return to the process of jury selection. So as you may recall, this garnered a lot of attention and involvement from a number of different our job members, and so the body wanted to continue to prioritize that as well. And objective 11 was another prioritized area. This is related to data collection to kind of keep that work going from the data subcommittee as they're kind of working through what's the best way to have that be an ongoing activity that can be monitored and supported from the various agencies who would provide that data. And I believe that was it.
So 13711.
1, 3, 7, 8, and
Oh,
11.
Okay, so those were identified as priority items for the main body earlier this
Mhm.
year.
Mhm. Yes.
So, I know that we was focused heavy on, the funding piece, and, what is it we would like to, discuss this point, out of those highlighted items of 1, 3, 7, 8, and 11, that may be our of most concern to us, or if we just want to kind of ride the wave of the overall body that merges with what we're trying to do to advance one of those issues that's on the table.
Right, well, I think you can see too on this work plan, if you go to the third column where it has lead and team, there are some of these objectives that were specifically assigned to, right, the CEF subcommittee. And then from there is where you guys' old work plan was then developed, right? So given of those that were highlighted to be, or those that were identified to be priority areas, the one, what is it, obviously objective 7 is the one directly aligned with this subcommittee. But then you may also want to think about, of all the priority objectives, what role do you feel that CEF could play or would want to play in some of that work too?
Yeah, I know that based on the title of our subcommittee, 7 was where we kind of hung our hat on the last meeting, and try to figure out the approach to building that capacity fund, even for us to do work in the community and be more community involved and community present. And we were trying to discuss what would that look like, what would the actual what actual type of engagement we would be doing, and what type of funds would we need to move that forward. So just revisiting that at this time. I remember it was kind of abrupt too, and we had to end the meeting. We kind of finished up pretty fast, but what did the body think about that topic with the community, building the community capacity fund, and also our role in that, and how do we want to engage the public and getting the public and the CBOs involved with our subcommittee.
So I just, not to be completely repetitive, I just want to make sure that we take the work that we've done in the past and build on that instead of starting over from scratch. That's thing one. Thing two is, I'm not sure that this subcommittee is the place where the public needs to engage. Unless our job tells us that they want the public engaging at the subcommittee level. Maybe that's what the idea is, but it seems like the work of this committee should be to get people engaged with the entire committee. Those are the meetings where decisions are made, where recommendations are made to go to the public. Not to say we don't want the public at this meeting. We've had the public. We need the public at this meeting, but I think that we can be most effective if we are coming up with ways and strategies to help people engage our job as a whole. So I'd like to hear some feedback on that if anyone has it.
Yeah, I agree with that. So my question is, what do we bring to the oversight of the overall body? What are our ideas? What are our, what things do we want to bring to the overall body to get that engagement going? Or what are our suggestions? That's hard to do, like, say that 3 times, what are our suggestions? What are that was tough. But yeah, what are our suggestions, based on that? Because I was a little confused originally about that with the title of this subcommittee. And, is it just our, recommendations that we give to our full body about community engagement funding or funds or what? And so, like you said, Marcus, if it is our desire for the overall body to be engaged with the public and moving those agendas forward, then what is our role in that process and what do we bring to the overall body, with our subcommittee suggestions or recommendations? Anyone? So
Can I say?
that's my question. Go ahead.
Hey y'all. When I was reading the CEF work plan, it outlined some things like for CEF to bring to the full R job, like what are the places, what are the time options, what are the where should we go in East County, West County, Central County to hold a meeting. And so I was wondering if are those the kinds of questions you want to be answering today? What was that your question? Like what specifically should we bring? Anyways, what I wanted to do is point back to that work plan because there are a lot of like tasks outlined there that I'm curious if that could support the conversation and the movement. Like bringing back to our job some suggestions about like where to hold meetings and the times to hold them. Maybe finding community partners that could host them in the community. Or if like our job members can attend council meetings and give public comment about our job. I'm looking at the first page of attachment 2. For those kind of specific things, but
Yeah, those was my thoughts because I'm glad you mentioned that. That was my actual, line of thinking was, if we're supposed to support the body, the overall body, then how do we want to do that? I know we talked about what did that mean about the body meeting from like, I guess 1 to 4, 1 to 5 during the day. How would that bode well with the community or the public if they wanted to participate in some of the meetings that our job does? I know city council meetings or council meetings in different areas of the county happen in the evening. Do we try to make our presence felt during those times with the overall body, not so much to see the CEF, but the overall body, and what do we tell the overall body how to our recommendations as to our suggestions as to when we should engage. Like you said, what times, what types of meetings should they be present at? How should they engage the public? What's most effective? Those types of things. So I think that's in step with what you just said, Kendra, about these items right here and revisiting them.
I guess, so what is the goal of the our job committee? Is it to simply get more community engagement, or are there specific goals and objectives in terms of what they're hoping to gain from this additional community input engagement, right? I know, for instance, the last meeting would be forum, and I know summertime and forum is difficult. But sort of what are the objectives? What are we supposed to be shooting for? Is it simply to make sure that the community knows about these meetings and knows they're welcome? Are we trying to build engagement to get input on specific items, or, you know, those are the things and that I think would help us help the conversation move forward.
Hmm. Yeah. Anybody on virtually want to speak? Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't want to make this our job's goal. I just want to share one of the goals and priorities of the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice for this year, which is to increase the number of folks that are engaged in advisory bodies in general. I'm not saying that that should be our goal as, as the CEF subcommittee, but there might be overlap. If you all think that's, there might be overlap in the sense that what we're trying to do is make sure that, folks who have lived experience, folks with racial diversity are participating on county advisory bodies. And so, um, you know, we're planning to do a project with the clerk of the board where we're doing some initial data capturing of like who's right now participating on county advisory bodies, so that when we do some outreach, we can do like a before and after picture. But I'm just throwing that out there that that's one of our goals, to see what you all think. Or and the reason is, advisory bodies are the places where the Board of Supervisors relies on advisory bodies for direction, for advice, for community. Like, what do y'all think about these policies and programs we're going to implement? So we want to make sure those are accessible to community members who are directly impacted by the policies and programs that those advisory bodies are, making recommendations to the board. So that's, so we're looking specifically at advisory body participation. I know I'm wondering if one of the reasons our job was looking for advice is to make sure the recommendations that are going forward to the board represent those who are most impacted by policies, in the public safety organizations in the county. So anyways, I was just throwing that out there to for conversation, but also to let you know that what we're working on is specifically, one of the things we're working on is looking at advisory body, increasing participation on advisory bodies. And then as we transition, as our office transitions to staff, we do know that there's some recruiting. We're gonna need to be filling some seats. So we are gonna, support those efforts with Gariana, Patrice, and team, trying to get, the vacant seats on our job filled.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah, it's been my overall desire to be in this position to try to steer the you know, the progress of our subcommittee, making sure that we are effective in some way, that we are addressing some of the things that we have on our agenda. And it does seem a little cloudy at times of the role of our job. So, but I do think that we have things like, public comment, which means to me that we want to hear from the public. And how can we do that if we don't have a public present? So I don't know if we want to increase that. Like Marcus said, is that something we want to do as a subcommittee, or we just want to do it in an overall basis, like for the body as a whole? But if that is the case, what is our mission on that? How do we increase that, or even bring it to to the overall body to start getting these things going, because we haven't, in my experience with the overall body, we haven't been out, should I say in the streets? We haven't been in the streets, so I think that's a commonality I can, a thread where I can say, you know, we kind of all understand what that means, being, we haven't been engaged with the public, or out of the public, and really driving the mission or the presence of the body. I don't really know if the public really know we exist. I don't know if they know they can contact us. I don't know if they know, you know, where to direct comments, even if they want to do some and send them online, or if the public, you know, even though if we out here, that possibly may be a avenue they can use as getting the message through to the board or what. So I don't even know if that's our, you know, overall mission, but if it is, then what are we doing about it, right? And how are we going about that to, you know, to make things happen on that end, and get the public to know that we're a resource or an avenue for them to possibly get in touch with, and maybe you know, bring their comments to, or their, you know, concerns or their ideas or what. That was one thing that for me, just being efficient, I wanted to try to use myself in some kind of way that may be useful. And so that was one of the things I wanted to bring to the table to talk about, especially with all these bright minds on this body. So
You have someone.
oh, go ahead,
Sure.
Cheryl.
Sure. I'm gonna tell you right now, I have bronchitis, so, and a little bit of laryngitis, so my voice is what it is. So don't ask me to speak up, because you're just gonna be talking to yourself.
No problem.
I'm speaking as loud as I can. So to your point, I just want to let you know I've been on this body, and before that, the racial justice coalition that started this whole project from the very beginning. And I will tell you that the public does know we exist. The public does know that there's public comments. But the most successful that we have been from the very beginning in reaching the public has been going to the public, not asking the public to come to us. And I think that that's the first mistake. You're asking the public to come to meetings when a lot of people are frankly at work, or they're doing what they do to either make a living or you know, they're otherwise engaged. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when it's convenient for us. And so there's a mistake. And so when we talked about this years ago, and before we had this community engagement committee, we had just the task force. We started having meetings in the public at a time when the public could attend. And so that meant that in each district, each supervisorial district, we had town hall meetings in the evening when the public could attend. And my number one rule, if you feed them, they will come. So we fed them. We had food, and we had meetings where we talked to them about not only what the oversight body was about, but what is it that you would like to see, or what is your experience with racial injustice, as it were. And then we gave them the numbers. So it's not just anecdotal, it's not just stories of people's lived experience, because everybody has their own experience or their own stories, but here are the numbers. And they got to hear from the county officials, and they got to hear from, at that time, the task force, and then the oversight body. So if you want to engage the public, then go to the public. Don't sit around and wait for them to come to you. The old saying goes, Muhammad doesn't come to, if the mountain won't go to Muhammad, Muhammad goes to the mountain. So it's todo. It's all I want to say.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, that's exactly what I remember those meetings as well, so I was a president of those as well, so. I know I want to get back to that, and trying to figure that out. And just making sure that that's something we can still do. It's been so long since that's happened. And that is my vision, because that's kind of where I reside is, engaged with the public, and that's what I do. So for me, that wouldn't be very difficult. And so, with that being said, this body as a subcommittee, do we want to bring those recommendations to our job overall body to know that definitely we want to get back out there and get involved with the public, to try to bring the public in, to be, a useful tool to bring more concerns to the board, and to our job, because I think that's where those items are gonna come from, is come from the public. Because we're all part of the public as well, but we don't have all the experiences that the public have. So if we want to do anything with this and bring any recommendations or pass on any kind of information to the board, the VOS, then as a subcommittee and as an overall body, we need to generate that energy coming from who we serve, which is supposed to be the public. So
So I think, Patrice highlighting kind of what the main body talked about and decided that the priorities of their work plan would be this year is important, because we are a subcommittee. And I just think that it's worth noting that if the main body has had some quorum issues and some disability to meet or whatever, but that I don't want to feel like this subcommittee is kind of going rogue, because I think the intention is that we're working on the items that they have identified for this, so I feel like we're missing some grounding because we're a subcommittee. And the main body's work plan is what should be informing what our work plan is. And I think just, I want to say since a year and a half ago, I think when we went into transition and had that kind of hiatus, it's been kind of unclear. And like we spent a lot of time talking about, what is it, Objective 7 last time, about capacity funding, or capacity fund building. So, I just wanted to just raise that, because if they've identified these numbers as the priorities, then technically only one of those really has our name on it, and that is the one about capacity building. So I'm wondering if that's where the energy should be. I know we spent a lot of time, actually Kendra reminded me of this when she said something, or when you shared what your work plan is at your office, because it just reminds me that as this county committees and subcommittees, that's kind of what we talked about with capacity building, is there were 7 or 8 things maybe listed who are all potentially working on the same thing. And so maybe from the engagement part, maybe that could be what we try to take on, is getting the messaging out there and getting people informed about, for example, Objective 7, that there are all these agencies that are working on capacity building in our county. How can we bring that conversation together somehow, so that we're not being duplicative, but just using each other's resources, because we're all trying to do the same thing. So I just feel like we need some alignment some kind of way, but I also recognize it's difficult to do that because our main body is not able to meet regularly and kind of keep things floating. So
Yeah, it seems like, us waiting for direction has been an issue, right? So if we can't get the direction, we try to find one, so, um, yeah, that part. And, yeah, so that's why I raised that, right? Because, without getting, regular, instruction or regular, um, direction from the body is, I feel it's just leaving us to kind of like, figure it out for ourselves. Um, and then what approach are we taking with that? But, so that's why I raised it too, because I'm just me, I'm just thinking on my, in my head, between my ears. And so that's not good. I need everybody to kind of throw something in there so we can have a healthy, way to move forward. So yeah, um, that could be, an issue because if they're not we're not meeting regularly, then, it does kind of leave us a little dormant in the things that we
Right.
are trying to do, so, and I don't know how to, deal with that personally, because it's like, okay, I'm supposed to be in this position, leading some kind of way or chairing. And if, I want to at least have something to address so that we won't be frivolous in our approach, in our, work. So, that's my concern too. Just making sure that we doing something, effectively, or doing something that matters, that has some meat, to it. So, um, but it's totally up to the body of, the subcommittee as well. So how we want to go about it.
To Kiki's point, is there a way to think about the conversation that we're to think about engaging community members and having meetings at times that are convenient to folks who work and have other commitments in their life? Is there a way to bring the conversation around community capacity building to that space? I just going back to Kiki's point around like the main bodies at 1, 3, 7, 8, and 11. And if 7, one of the things that I'm seeing on the list is like as the action items on objective 7 for the community capacity fund, it says like develop list of qualifications and application process for the fund. It seems like it could be helpful to get community members or like even CBOs feedback on what an application process could be, for example. There are probably lots of other ways we could just get feedback from the community about this community capacity fund. And so I'm wondering what you all, was going back to Kiki's point. I didn't come up with it. I'm just bringing it back up just to see what you all think about that. Combining these two ideas that have been talked about today. And then as you're thinking about that, we've got to take some recommendations to the equity committee next month. And so it could be a combined report like these are our initial thoughts. We think we can take it out to the community, but then, we also want to be asking the equity committee for we want to bring some specific kind of recommendations. So to fund the capacity fund or to fund outreach activities for us to develop further the capacity fund. We just want to think of something for the equity committee. So that's kind of my 2-part question, if you will.
So if I may, and I think that, again, like when we went and we did this work back in 2021, 2020, whatever, this work, we did a lot of work and but I thought we came up with qualifications. I don't know if we had an application process, but ultimately there was no money, right? So what I don't want to waste the public's time with us going back out and asking these questions again if we are going and not getting, hey, there's going to be X amount of dollars in this grant for a capacity building. Now because if we go back out and say, hey, we did this before, we're coming back again, and there's no money again, some of us have to some of us have to work with these organizations, and that's harming some trust, and being able to have folks to say, hey, if we work with them, things are going to happen, or so I'm not sure if we need to take a recommendation from this body from the CEF to the main body to say, hey, we need something from the Board of Supervisors to say, we're going to put X amount of dollars into this so that we can move forward, because we did a lot of work. We did a lot of work on this. And I'm not opposed to revisiting it and doing it again, or doing it in a different way, but I also don't want us to put our community organizations out there again, where they're saying, hey, we did this 2 or 3 years ago, nothing came of it. That's a question that I still have in terms of where's the money, right? Another member of this committee would ask that question, and I think it's a legitimate question at this point, right? If we were starting brand new and fresh, I'd say, okay, maybe we have a little bit of grace, but I mean, and you all can tell me if you disagree and think there's other work we can do, but I'd hate to bring in some of these nonprofits and these community-based organizations a second time without having, an end goal. Like, hey, we're going to build this because we have these dollars to disseminate. So that's where, should we give them a number? Should we say, hey, it should be $1 million. It should be 100,000. Do we need to come up with that number? Because that's where I'm sort of stuck. If we need to do the work again, we can do the work again, but I prefer not to bring the CBOs in unless we can tell them the end of this, we're going to have a process to disseminate X amount of dollars.
Patrice, are you there? Yeah, so to be truthful, there's a lot of this happening in the community, to be honest with you. Community capacity building, effectiveness of CBOs and nonprofits, evaluations, all the things that we talked about a few years ago is actually really happening. I don't necessarily know if it's happening because of what we recommended, or if it's because like what's the other agency, PPC or whatever.
The public protection.
Yeah, the advisory board.
Oh.
Right? I don't know if it's because of them or whatever, but all of this is actually really happening. And so I'm saying to Patrice, I don't necessarily know if some of that stems from what we talked about, what Marcus is referring to prior, all of the activity we did initially. And it just doesn't seem like it was us. But all these things actually on these items, these items, a lot of those things are happening right now, currently, about community capacity building, program capacity building, monies that has been allotted to a lot of local agencies, additionally to what was already there. A lot of CBOs and stuff got granted some more grants from probation and other agencies as well. So what we're kind of concerned about bringing the public in to do, as far as engagement, is not necessarily reiterating, community capacity building and all that stuff, because a lot of that's happening, but it's just what is our role. But can you speak to that, Patrice, and talk to a little bit about what I just mentioned, to say, hey, our concerns here or things that we dealt with in previous years, are actually currently, relevant or currently happening?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. A, a good number of these various objectives are again, they were the work plan was established many years ago, so it doesn't account for the work that has transpired over the last several years. And to your point, specifically related to community capacity fund, I want to say at our last, that's right, our last meeting, CEF meeting, we did talk about all of the existing community capacity funding and resources that we've been able to identify in partnership with the ORESJ that is taking place, whether it's money that's being put aside to then work on that, or there are already groups that currently exist that are providing some of that support. So if I can, I don't know if you guys remember that list that we pulled together.
Yeah. That's what I was referencing earlier, Patrice, and actually, when you were talking, Ronell, I was thinking about that again. And wondering, Patrice, has the larger body seen that collection of information that you put together? So
No.
that
I
could
think so.
be a piece of it, right? 'Cause if we go back to this was created in 2019,
Mhm.
I'm feeling like if it was highlighted in yellow at the beginning of the year, it's probably because they hadn't
Yeah.
necessarily known about all these things already happening. So maybe to Marcus's point, we can use a document that Patrice created and ask the question to the body, hey, this is the status now. Is it in our best interest to try to pursue money of our own, you know, and go that route again? Or try to get grants and stuff as it notes in here under number 1 of the, I think the action steps, maybe the second column. Or should we spend some of our human resources, right, kind of to Cheryl's point too earlier, in doing some outreach to these other organizations who are doing the same thing in our county and trying to collect this information and get some updates and then help share and do all that. Like, so where is our energy best spent
Yeah.
based on where we are now?
Yeah, and even to Marcus's point, doing work and where's the money, to be truthful, I want to say within the last year, fiscal year, a lot of agencies, funding has been kind of flooded. A lot of funding has went out to several agencies that I'm aware of. And so, even the one I worked with was trying to get funding. There was a lot of funding available. So, I think some of these things, these items, and objectives have been addressed. It just probably hasn't been, reported
Right.
like we had something to do with it, whatever. And so I think that may be the issue too. And like Kiki said, our overall body may not be aware of some of those things.
That's what I think too.
So I think maybe that's an item we need to deal with too, is how do we get the overall body to see some of the things that have been taking place or have been happening, just to at least record what's really going on in the community, so that we won't have to be thinking that nothing's been done. That's also something too.
So yeah, that's an important first step, is to, I don't know the word for that.
Tell the body.
Form.
Tell the body.
Body, here's
Hey.
the status,
Right.
actually, here's what we've determined. Do you want the next step to be us still being in pursuit of our own capacity building?
Right.
Or to spend some time engaging with these other organizations and helping to sort of spread the word and
Yeah.
technical assist or something of that nature?
Right. Discovery and all that kind of stuff. I think that's important too. So I think one of the things we can say is that this subcommittee wants to bring to the attention of the overall body what's currently taking place, so that they're aware of the actual items that maybe we was trying to address as an overall body, maybe being addressed in the community, how directly they are coming from this body or our overall body, I'm not sure, but we need to, you know, visit that so that we can, you know, at least let the body know, what's happening, so that we won't be, you know, unnecessarily targeting things that kind of already being addressed. And I think Patrice's, input and what she might can furnish us with to do that might be helpful.
And we could still ultimately, depending on what the body says, do number two. We could use what Patrice already constructed to put together almost this catalog of what are the qualifications that you need and things and all the bells and whistles for each of these organizations who are already funded to do the capacity building and
Yeah.
spread that information.
You know. Oh, who got the hand up? Oh, Jill, you want to say something?
I just wanted to kind of check in. I lost track of the community capacity fund discussion, but as I last recall, Chris James had done a presentation to, I believe, PPC on it, and what they asked for was more information on what that looked like, more details. So it wasn't that they were not funding it, it's that they sent it back for more information and details. And I'm not sure, Patrice, maybe you could update me if I'm wrong, but or correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that ever was done. I don't think there was a presentation to the PPC with more details of what the ask was. So I think that was the biggest issue, is coming back and saying, okay, that's great, but what does it look like? So.
Yeah, no, you're right, Jill. That's an important clarification. And this body has looked at, I believe, a previous draft of, I guess I would consider it more of a brief description of what the fund could do, how it could be utilized, that Burns Institute put together for the body. So it's just kind of where it stopped.
So, can I clarify? So PPC would be the body to allocate the funds or make the recommendation to the board for the allocation?
Yeah, the Public Protection Committee is a subcommittee of the Board of Supervisors. And so everything originally from RJOB was going through that, but now they're going through the Equity Committee. But that was the last conversation that I recall about the capacity funds. It wasn't that the board wasn't funding them. The board direction from the subcommittee was to go back and do a more detailed ask, you know, of what it would look like and all of that to be considered by the Board of Supervisors. And I will note that along with capacity building funds, I know that the probation department did, you know, Measure X has had $2 million in innovation funds, and they're releasing another round of $2 million in innovation funds, which I think are similar to the capacity building funds. It's for new and new ideas and to help smaller organizations lift up their ideas and implement them. So I think it's happening. It's not that the board is not interested. It was just needed. It was a very vague overview ask, and it really wasn't a funding request that went to PPC.
Thank you for that clarity, Jill. Yeah, that was my concern or my you know, thoughts were, wow, I just thought about it. Funding has been requested almost at every level, saying, hey, who needs money, right? So money is out there, and I you know, like I say, I can't say we directly have something to do with why funding is available. However, how can we? I think our job is also too is to you know, let the public know that these kind of things are happening in the community, and then if we need to go back to respond to that question as to what does that look like, then that's what we want to let the overall body know. Hey, these are the concerns. These are the questions that were asked us as a body. How can we produce that so that we stay on track with what our role is in this capacity? So how do we frame that from this meeting, the direction we want to go in with our suggestions? One, how do we address the question from the equity committee, not the equity committee, Jill, what you just mentioned from the
PPC,
board?
but actually you're now, everything is going through equity. So you are correct, Ronell. It's equity now.
All right, cool. I'm trying to stay with the changes. So how do we answer that question? Address the concerns of the equity committee asking us, you know, what do we mean by something, or what do we, you know, what does that look like? And then also letting the overall body know that, hey, there's a lot of things going on in the community that we were concerned about, that we wanted to address. And whether we are responsible for it or not is really not the question, but to be knowledgeable about the things that are happening, so that we know that they're happening. We don't have to, you know, go back over them again, or you know, readdress them. So, which I'm hoping, Patrice, your report or your input from what's going on can help us express that to the overall body. Because I don't think they're aware of everything. One, they haven't been meeting regularly, but two, some of the things that have happened, I think, in the last 8 months in the community around funding and funding capacity, and you know, passing out those funds have already been done. And like Jill said, it's probably up for a whole nother round. And so the activity is happening with funding and support to the CBOs, to the community-based organizations, to the agencies in the public. But we need to get that information out there. I think that's another thing too. So we just need to provide that information to our overall body about what we discussed here, as far as those few items around that question from the board or equity committee on what does that look like from us, so we can be more specific in their question, you know, our answer to them, what that means from us. If that
Yeah,
makes
and
any
if I
sense.
could add a couple of other things, you know, I think as this body have been deliberating on what a community capacity fund would look like and what were the resources that would come out of it, you know, it just so happened that other areas of the county, right, funding was starting to become more available, either in mini grants that were being provided, or as Jill mentioned, innovation funding, or capacity building targeting certain types of organizations. So just in trying to stay in alignment with what our jobs purpose and focus, which is in reducing racial disparities across the juvenile and criminal legal justice system, right? Are the respective organizations that would have an impact in our county's ability to do so. Are they the organizations that are receiving these sort of resources, whether it's if they're eligible to go after these sort of grants, or is there a different type of capacity that's needed? And I think so, since this body has been deliberating on what will be, or what would the capacity building fund look like and what it would entail. I think at this stage, a greater question to ask and to look toward answering is, what are the existing sort of capacity needs that may not be currently being addressed through, right, these other newer initiatives, right? How can this fund be a gap filler, if you will? At the last meeting, we did provide a draft of that original proposal that Burns put together, which I think a good chunk of it came from actually a previous capacity building effort that was done through AB 109. a while back. I'm just looking at some of the components of it that really focused on one-on-one coaching, some technical assistance, some seed funding, mentorships for organizational leadership, things of that nature. So it was a little bit more comprehensive than necessarily just, direct allocation of resources. So that's something to consider as well. What kind of capacity needs could this fund help address?
And I recall that draft, and I guess the question was, what was specifically lacking that the PPC needed? Was it a specific dollar amount? Was it, hey, we need to know, because, and I'm sorry that I don't have it with me, and then I guess if I pulled out my laptop, we could pull it up. But it did seem that we had a place where we could get those questions answered. And there are already some capacity building programs out there that we could liberally borrow from in order to present to the PPC, right? Or to the equity committee, whoever is going to make the decision about the allocation. Were there other missing pieces that could be filled in from other?
So actually, the proposal you all saw that was part of the agenda packet at the last meeting was an improvement from what was actually presented to PPC.
Okay, all right, got it.
Yeah, so what was presented to PPC was like a one-pager like overview. And then this sort of second iteration of that, which if you don't mind, Gary, I can try to share screen. I'm afraid to share screen because I got so many tabs open and everything. Y'all might be scared.
But that one had not gone to the PPC. The second one had
No.
not been presented to you.
Right.
Got it,
That's
understand.
correct.
Had it gone to the R job itself?
I have to double check. I want to say it did, though. I want to say it did as an attached item to a CEF update.
Yeah, I don't think it was discussed. I think it was probably, there's been so few R job meetings and I think they ran out of time on agendas for a lot of items. So I don't think there was any discussion.
Mhm.
Yeah, that very well can be the case. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 41 minutes. Here we are. Any other thoughts, comments? So how do we do this? Do we start shaping these few items that we're discussing now as action items?
I would like to, if we can take what was presented to us at the last meeting and if at our next meeting, possibly vote to move it forward, take a good look at it, see if there are things that maybe, need to be changed, improved, edited, but at least move it forward to the R job to approve, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking back at the last our job meeting, which was May 2nd. It was an agenda item to discuss the community capacity fund. And that updated proposal was included, and you're right, Jill, I wasn't a lot of discussion from the full body on it. So you certainly can bring it back to a future our job meeting. We can also have it be discussed or have it be an agenda item for a future joint equity committee meeting. I don't know, Kendra, if you think that's a good place to at least bring it back up for further discussion, and then members can even ask of the supervisors directly what more detail they'd like to see. So those are some potential options.
Yes,
Mhm.
I agree. Let's do that. Let's turn some of these discussions into action items. What we want to go back to the our job with, and yeah,
And then
that's
time,
my huh?
sorry about that. I was just saying timing wise, there's not a full meeting before the equity committee meeting, right? So, because the equity committee meeting will take place in September. Um, so yeah, just adding the support that this could be a good conversation for the equity committee meeting, that joint meeting in September.
Okay, so our job meets our job meeting is what? The first week of September? Or no?
November.
November. Yeah, quarterly, you're right. So Kendra, you just spoke about the equity committee. What would you need from us?
A co-presenter for one.
Ah,
Rodell, are you a bit? No, but also maybe could somebody summarize where we landed? I don't want to butcher it. Yep, I'm wondering.
that's yeah. That's what I was trying to do. Go ahead, Marcus.
No, I was just gonna ask, but we can't, from this subcommittee, put something in front of the equity committee, doesn't it need to go to the our job main body, right? So I'd hate to,
And we're not meeting, they're not meeting
Till November.
right. So we have an impasse.
So, I have notes from our job meeting on this item. Would you like to know what they say?
Sure. Can you share that with us, Jill?
Yes. Chris wanted to go back to the Jewel Legacy Group and ask for clarification on the details. Issa asked if Jewel was interested in bidding on the RFP of a released capacity fund. They probably would not be allowed to if the language from their document is used in the RFP. I had mentioned that the document lacked details, so what area of reentry would be included. Gigi said she wants to see it focused on prevention. And I pointed out that the document specifically states for those already in the criminal justice and juvenile justice systems, so that language would need to be amended. Issa said it would be beneficial to reach out to other organizations that did these programs to see if they worked. She reached out to Alameda County and they said it did not have an impact. And I wrote Patrice added, but then I must have gotten distracted by something. And so I didn't say what you added, Patrice. I'm sure you remember.
You had a squirrel moment on that one. Conveniently, because
Okay,
I don't remember.
I know why I got distracted because Matt left the meeting at some point in time. Matt Malone. Oh, that was a jury pooling process. And then Peter said that he and Kendra are pursuing private funding to pursue this issue. Oh, no. So that must have been, we jumped to the jury pooling thing, so never mind. So that was the notes from capacity building at our job. So there was a discussion and it was just really unclear on how to move forward. There was no direction. So I don't know if revisiting that with our job at this point in time, I just don't know.
So it sounds like we can always take it back to our job, but it won't be effective early on with the upcoming, equity committee meeting. It would just be, I guess, later, so. It might be something that
Right.
we have concerns about. We just can't address it right away.
Well, in
Right.
all honesty, budgets are done. So this, I don't know that there's a rush. I don't know that there's money just laying around for this. Maybe Patrice knows better or Kendra knows better. But it's almost,
Knows what the funds are.
building toward next fiscal year ask.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, yeah, I mean, at least that lets us know where we are. We did identify a few things, and what's important to us and what we want to, address. It just happened to be the bad timing, so, but, we're an ongoing committee, so we always have things to address, so, I don't think it's lost cause. And it's not necessarily moot point either, so it's just something we had to kick down the road. But go ahead, Marcus.
So if I may, I went back and I looked at the, what was presented last time. And so it's a 2-page document with a Jewel D legacy, the Jewel the stuff, the Jewel legacy group information. So I'm not sure, Patrice, if that's what you're referring to. But what there is just a 2-page document that's community capacity fund proposal. But I would imagine they want it more than that.
When you say
Because-
how far, which actual meeting you were looking at?
The May 9th meeting. May 9th.
Yeah, so no, that one is, so this is a newer iteration of what was presented to the PPC, was it over a year or so ago? So this is so yes, the May 9th meeting is what was presented to our job, almost as like an update proposal, that does largely, structured off of what Jewel Legacy has done in the past. I can tell you, they were the provider for the AB 109 capacity project, a capacity building project years ago as well. And it was very similar structure. So I think for this body, and that was research done by Burns, who reached out to see in what other ways can the fund be structured to provide some capacity building support to CBOs. So I think what you have before you is kind of like 2 sources of information, if you will. We provided last time a handout of a listing of some of the capacity building efforts that we were aware of that's currently happening in different areas. And then you have this proposal here, of a previously tested structure for a community capacity fund and what all that would entail. So I think from those, from those pieces, you all can decide or determine, if there's anything missing, or if there are, other detailed activities, or whatever the case may be, that you would like to see this fund help fill the gap, on. So, just some things to consider.
You? Anyone else? We are at the 4:30 mark. Is this where we start to just I guess shape our summary or whatever and try to build what we discussed on paper, so we can have our I don't know the term, but or moving the meeting towards a conclusion.
if you like, you do have, your scheduled time is from 3 to 5. And the remaining items had to do with the sheriff's oversight report. That's something that you all want, again, want to review and have any feedback on in regards to how community can be engaged in that process or whatever the case may be. And then if there's any other things you might want to speak to or address regarding this subcommittee's own work plan.
Right, so I think Kiki referenced you know, basically what we want to do is bring things to the body, right? So if that's the case, what other items do we have right now that we want to bring to the body? Since they haven't been meeting, what is it out of the items that we have in front of us that we want to bring to the body or discuss here that's pertinent for what we want to bring to the body or whatever, since we're a subcommittee, right? We know that we had that big item, which was the capacity building fund. We know that, so sounds like we kind of tackled it for the most part. And that we want to bring it back to the body as well. We won't be meeting with them for some time. It's on the table. It's, you know, it's on the shelf for a minute. You know that the equity committee will be meeting sooner than the body will be meeting with itself. So that's a table, you know, item as well. So out of these other items that's left, what do we want to discuss?
Can I ask if staff can bring to our next meeting a proposal to take to the R job? Like, that's, you all bring us something that says, hey, this is what we want to bring to the R job, is, unless you're telling us that that 2-pager is what you would like to bring to the main committee. And I'd like us to do that.
Well, the 2-pager was brought to the full body on behalf of the committee. And you know, the feedback was given, but there wasn't much feedback in terms of what they would like to see be changed or altered, or whether or not they're endorsing that respective structure. So you know, it's really to this committee to kind of determine what some next steps should be on that. Or if you'd like to see some changes made.
I think so. Yeah, it is back on it. I think what do you think about it? I mean, it's 2 pages that, I mean, if they're, so we need their direction.
Yes, we need their direction. That's my thing. I don't want us just going off on a tangent without their direction. So I think that's what we need to ask for.
But if I could gently push back, because they didn't really give much, much direction. So if you bring it back to our job, you might find yourself with a similar circular conversation, you know.
Well, then maybe, I hate to be repetitive from other subcommittees that I'm a part of. However, maybe what we should be asking is, because, you know, again, time happens, things change. where would they like for this subcommittee to go? Or should we be a different subcommittee? Like, I think that's really kind of where we are. Because without like a clear work plan, you know, I know a lot of us, you know, hustle and bustle to try to make this happen. But like, you know, we need some direction. So if there wasn't feedback about the item that was from their work plan that you put together so beautifully, Patrice, that I think maybe one of the questions that we need to ask is, where would they like our attention to be? Or if there is time to regroup, you know, since 2019 and decide if there should be a differently focused subcommittee.
I think, Kiki she's onto something. She's onto something. And, yeah, the light bulb is on. But yeah, I mean, you know, a child can only do what a parent allows them, so.
And that's why I'm saying,
Like,
'cause
mom, dad, what's up?
we could have a bunch of different ideas about things, but our work is supposed to be informed by their work plan. And so if it's our work, we're just another committee, you know what I mean?
Right.
If it's not informing, you know, or being informed by their work plan. So that I just think it's really important to get that direction or definition, or for them to say, you know what, the work here has been done.
Mhm.
Let's figure out what we need a subcommittee to focus on now.
Yeah.
Did that in another venue and it's proven to be quite productive.
Yeah, and that was my point around shaping it towards, you know, what we're saying from this meeting, our summary from this meeting. Channeling that into, you know, on paper is like, hey, you know what, we did all we can, we're doing all we can. We have our, you know, so-called marching orders. We've been doing what we're supposed to do. However, at this point, we're looking for more instruction and direction from the overall body. It kind of leaves us in a place where, you know, we're kind of in the wilderness,
Very much so.
since we keeping with the theme of, you know, communion. So we're in the wilderness.
We on the mountain.
20 days, hey, we in the wilderness. You see the forest and the trees, so, you know, yeah, we out here.
No, but I'm skeptical. Just think of all that we've been through since
I know.
2019.
I
So
know.
so much is different.
Yes,
So much
yeah.
is different. And so it's just really important, I think, to keep going back to the drawing board to make sure things are still relevant.
Yeah.
If we find ourselves spinning our wheels like I feel like we have been our last few meetings, then I think it's just because we need to revisit the purpose.
Yeah, and even with the capacity, the funding and the capacity building, I mean, technically, usually you searching for dollars, right? You trying to, you know, you pounding the pavement and beating the table, but they've been coming to agencies asking, hey, do you guys need any more money?
Mhm.
So that even the relevancy there, Kiki's point is like, hey, you know, that might have been a major concern in 2019 when you keep trying to look
Yeah.
at the rocks and under, you know, trying to find the combinations to safe, but at this point, not so much, you know, that's not, we was kind of sat on money for a couple of years because nobody was kind of working. So, yeah, the needs may be different even at this point. So, we know that a lot of operation is back rolling. But, you know, I think the agendas and some of the needs and the concerns have all been kind of like, at this point, possibly altered in many ways, sometimes small, sometimes large. But I think that is a legitimate question to our body as to, hey, what is our direction at this point? We've put some things out there, maybe someone, the body hasn't addressed to us in totality. So we're looking for some more clarity from them. And, you know, our relationship with the overall body probably needs to be, you know, evaluated at this point per Kiki, you know, and so Kiki, that's, we rolling with that, so.
You can put my name on it, Patrice.
Patrice, you know, your lovely report, you know, thank you for that. Want to use that, as leverage with our bodies to say, hey, you know what, we got some items already on the table. what's up with that, and let's move forward that way.
Fantastic.
Handbrake. Okay.
I can, I
I,
can,
I'm getting silly. I need to probably stand up and stretch my brain.
don't
So,
let me run this
hard
meeting
for me
because
to
it will
silly.
get silly.
I know,
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
will
gonna
get silly.
contribute to it. I'm gonna I'll keep it in check.
Don't buy into my, yeah, please.
I just wanted to make a comment about sort of where we are in like this, like between now and the end of the year and over the next couple months, there's gonna be some natural transitions that might lend itself to sort of like this reset that I'm hearing that Kiki just brought up. And like one of the things that I overheard listening to Measure X Community Advisory Board is they're bringing on like a facilitator to support them to revisit their strategic direction and to help them like set some new goals and figure out where their work plan for the upcoming year. And I wonder, given Peter and I will be taking the reins from Patrice and Garyana and ORJ team, probation team, I wonder if we can as a part of that transition, think about, I'm curious what you all think about maybe creating like a retreat for
Yeah.
our job as a whole to revisit that 2019 beautiful work plan and all the work that's been done up to now to both like celebrate what's happened and what's been accomplished, and then to sort of like chart this like new path for what we want to focus on and work on. And at the same time, there's I think this natural transition of like terms coming to end, so people like reapplying or making the decision if they want to reapply for their seats. Again, fill in some of the vacancies from folks who've resigned. There's like all this stuff happening, so I'm wondering if
Yeah.
what you all think about that.
I think it just further highlights, what you've said. It is definitely a natural transition point. And I just, I never want for our work to all just be futile because we're spinning our wheels, so that's really good information about facilitator you mentioned. And again, I think it's because of the meetings and things not maybe happening consistently, we're not necessarily getting all the information either. There's breaks in us really knowing kind of what's happening, but that's important because if that strategic plan is kind of being rethought, then I feel like we definitely probably need to take a pause and take a look at kind of what's for us and figure out, if the subcommittee remains, where we fit in to some of these larger plans and goals. But I was gonna mention, like, your office didn't exist in 2019. So
Right.
it's just one huge piece, right, that is much different from where this work plan's intentions began. So that's a really good point.
Mhm.
Makes a lot of sense to me. The retreat sounds like intriguing as well. Having a space where you can have you know, a way or time to do some things as opposed to short multiple times, one long time or something like that. That's enticing. So yeah, the new ideas, the new direction, the reset, all of that stuff sounds appropriate. Because we've been at this for a minute and the results are we all have concerns about our results. So I think that's fitting that you mentioned that. So thank you for that. And I think a lot of us, it's like music to our ears. So no matter what music you listen to, still sounds like music. So yeah, I'm with that. I'm with that. So thank you, Kendra. And also to yeah, I don't know how to do that, Patrice, with the rest of the meeting, how we funnel this into some form of summary. Because we was kind of all over the map about things, but I know we all agreed at the end of the day, how we want to move forward.
Do we, Patrice, can we make a recommendation to the larger body Cause it's kind of a blend of that we need to pause this conversation until the work plan is rethought. So that this subcommittee, we can sort of reconsider the work plan of this subcommittee. I don't really know how to word that, but I think that's kind of what we're asking for, is for a pause so that we can get some clarity and some direction around what the larger body is focused on, and what they would like for us to focus on, or if there are different areas and a need for a different subcommittee.
Yep, we can make note of that to share that with the full body.
Sticking to it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you, sir.
so much. So there you have it, Patrice. Those are your marching orders from this body, from this committee. That's where we at. That's we're firm.
Right.
And yes, thank you, Marcus, for everything. So yeah, anybody have anything else they want to add? Virtually or naturally? Nah. Virtually or in person? I don't know.
Oh, Lord,
This
it's
is
rubbing off, kids.
Hey, this is
Rubbing
different
off.
in itself. Virtually, real, virtual, well, you know.
Just go, Nick.
Well, one question I do have is that considering then that you all are requesting a pause in discussion of the work for C. And the full body doesn't meet again until November. You all will have a scheduled meeting in October. So I should ask, what would you all like to have happen in terms of next steps for your next scheduled meeting?
So the full body meets in November.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, well, let me be quiet. I was gonna say, I don't see a point. I don't see a point in us meeting prior to their next meeting because we're not gonna have any answers or it won't even be brought to their attention.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's a odd, situation
Yeah.
because we know where we stand. We probably will feel the same way in
More.
60 days. There's a good chance. And so, how do we do that? Do we say, hey, if we think everything is the same prior to the meeting, do Gariana reach out to us and say, hey, do we have anything new? And if we don't, then we kind of say, we'll pass on the meeting.
Yeah, so if I'm hearing correctly, then we can cancel next month's meeting. Then the full body will meet in November, in which this can be discussed as part of your subcommittee update to get further clarity from the full body in terms of how you should move forward. And then
So what's the date on that, Patrice? I'm sorry. The date.
I believe
is
it's
it the first?
November 2nd.
Okay, it's like the beginning. Okay.
November 2nd should be a Saturday.
Oh,
Oh,
It's
sorry,
the 7th. It's the 7th.
7th, sorry.
7.
Still single digits.
Okay, I thought it was in the beginning. Okay. So then if we don't meet in September, then we would also likely not meet in October unless there was something pressing. We would attend the full body meeting November 7th, raise this as a report out, and then probably be able to keep our meeting in November.
And let them have it.
Discuss.
Let the body have it.
Got it.
Yep. I have a motion. Do I put a motion on the floor to?
No action needs to be taken. We'll just go ahead and cancel those 2 meetings,
Okay.
September and October.
All right. So, in totality or in response, well, our summary to this meeting is that we're pausing, we're pausing at this time, and we're gonna bring our report to the full body at the next full body meeting in November.
Got it. All right.
We got it.
And thank you to the ORJ staff for all of your help
Thank you.
making these meetings happen. We know it's a lot for y'all, so I can imagine, every time something jumps, you guys gotta be a part of it, but we do thank you. Even though when it seems, a little convoluted, you all do help us clarify. So thank you. We appreciate all of your assistance.
It is certainly our pleasure, and just keep in mind that probably by the next time you all come together, you probably will be receiving a little more correspondence from Peter and Kendra, as by that time, they will likely be taking on the full staffing capacity for this body. But we're not too far, we're still around.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
We're here,
Thank
yeah,
you.
we're here to support
Like,
everybody,
no.
so we're gonna be here for y'all just like y'all here for us. So it's a team effort. And so we thank you all for all your, great work and energy and valuable input. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.